From this video, we will present the topic about reflective practice and framing. The first question is, what is reflection in action and how does it differ from reflection on action? Well, reflection in action is the ability to think through different approaches to handle the situation while the situation is occurring. Reflection on action is the ability to think on what happened previously and consider different approaches. From the first step of reflection in action, we should ask ourselves, like, am I going in the right direction? Then to think about what is actually the matter here. What are the key things that I should worry about, that I should take into account, or something like that. And then to frame the situation. Initially, it's a learning process. Well, for reflection on action, which means you are a skilled person when you do something. So you are very quick in adapting what you do to the situation almost without knowing it. And you are very quick in adapting what you do. It's very intuitive and it's based on experience. Well, the next question is, what is design abduction and how does it differ from other types of thinking? So this is the problem solving pattern, and the difference between the elements, patterns of relationships, and outcomes help us to analyze the four basic reasoning patterns and to show what design reasoning is really very different. Well, the first one is design abduction. In design abduction, the starting point is that we only know something about the nature of the outcome, the desired value we want to achieve. So we still need to figure out what to create new elements, and we need to choose how. So we need to think back and forth and to constantly question ourselves. For deduction, we know the elements in the situation and we know how they will interact together. This knowledge allows us to reason towards an outcome. For induction, we also know the elements in the situation and we know the outcome of their interactions. The point is that we need to figure out how they interact with each other. For abduction, actually abduction includes normal abduction and design abduction. For normal abduction, we know the result, the value we want to achieve, and also the how, a pattern of relationships that will help achieve the value. The missing element is a what. So we still need to create the what, like an object, a service, or a system. So Maria will introduce the next part.
Thank you. The next question is, what are frames and how do they fit in with other design practices according to Keith Dorst? And where do frames come from? So to put it briefly, framing design method is an approach in design thinking that was created in various problem contexts and provoked deep research. Originally, it comes from problem-solving patterns, deduction, induction, normal abduction, and design abduction covered above. Namely, it is the core of design abduction that goes beyond it. It is innovative in dealing with the real-life paradoxes. The next slide, how to fit other design practices. As there is a wide range of design practices and levels of design expertise, the author focuses on the formulating activity mostly. So there are 5 key design practices that we are going to study. They are co-evolution, developing problem situations, creating frames, exploring frames, and fostering a discourse. Co-evolution identified as a key concept that binds the problem space and the solution space. It's where the problem and its solution fit together, and the design phase of elation is complete. Developing problem situations means reformulating of a problem or where the process of finding new frames occurs. It's characterized by a free flow developing of a situation where a shift in the desired outcome may occur. Designers use abstraction and metaphors focusing on the future context and exploring the situational values deeper. Creating frames is the most undefined process. Keith Dorst provides new questions more than answers. What is quality of a frame? When is something a frame? But what is obvious is that frames are flows of ideas, inspiring, metaphoric, and fresh. Exploring themes means abstraction used to develop problem situations beyond the core paradox. Avoiding fossilized frames and conventional decisions is crucial here. It is based on observations and discoveries with no ground to prejudice. Fostering a discourse, contrary to the previous philosophical section, fostering a discourse is more physical. That is where themes and frames are embodied and appear as activities, such as exhibitions, presentations, and later on developed for future use. To recap and display schematically the way how the frame and model fits into other design practices, take a look at the next slide, where the left side represents 5 key design practices and the right one is the framing design model. Now I will explain the framing model according to Keith Dorst and how it could be implemented on the design challenge related to elderly loneliness during their quarantine. So the first step of the frame creation process is archaeology, that is, investigation of the history of problem, providing insight into its role. Here we have elderly people in their 75 living alone in a big city and who are not technologically savvy. Then we move on to the identification of a problem through paradoxes until we track the core paradox or deadlock in the decision making. We provided several examples of because statements which could be developed and finally should lead to the core paradox. The next step is then exploration of the context, namely key stakeholders who have been involved in the situation. They are social services, designers, teams, and relatives in our case. Then we would create an intellectual, cultural, and social space, a field of players in the wider context. We would study their power, interests, and values. In our case, it's one of the most vulnerable group of people restricted due to quarantine and their movement and social contacts and due to aging reasons in their capacities. In the theme step, we would understand hidden factors and experiences of the players. Through finding patterns and filtering them again and again until the core one is reached. The trick is that initially such ideas might be converted into opposite ones or even controversial ones. Frames are based on the most common themes, emphasizing the original paradox and formulating patterns of relationships. Frames could be implemented in the following way. If the problem situation is approached as if it is loneliness, in our case, for example, then, and here we would come across some ideas, which you can see on the slide. Thinking forward or futures is thinking about potential realistic solutions. We would reshape frames in this stage, try them out, and generate feedback. In our case, some of the frames look more realistic than the others, which are more time-consuming, pricey, and involve other stakeholders. The next step, transformation, is a critical evaluation of frames and solutions. Often new stakeholders are involved and new practices are required. And the last one is integration. At this step, we would make sure that the new frames and the developments they initiate are well integrated into the broader context of the organizations involved. To conclude, according to Keith Dorst, the frame creation process means zooming in and out from detail to abstraction and back again, and a shift in focus from an understanding of the core problem situation to widening the context and then to refocusing on the problem within a broadened field. While the first 4 steps lay the groundwork and the last 4 steps explore the implications of the frames, the 5th step, the framing itself, is considered to be the central one where new frames can be created. Thank you for watching.